And the transfer mill and rumours are still going where Arsenal's concerned. Let's see what they're saying about Bacola, Morgan Rogers, the Mexican Pedri, yada, 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 etc., etc. I'm going to say this for Arsenal fans. How many signings do you think we need for you lot to be truly confident about level raisers? Because for me, I would say two at a minimum, a central midfielder, a left winger. If you can bring me a striker, great. Obviously, there's a bit of, probably need a versatile defender, a backup goalie if it's expected Kepa depart. So, yeah, and we just want to see some signings, man. Shout out to all our Arsenal players who have participated at the World Cup / played at the World Cup. Obviously, Marino's made the difference for Spain. Odegaard's fairy tale with Norway continues. Commiserations to our boys from Brazil, Gabriel Magalhaes and Gabriel Martinelli specifically. We could also say Bruno Gomares. Let's talk that into existence. And the England boys, the Ezes, the Nonnies, specifically the Sakas and the Rices, their World Cup dream is still going. Trossard's still technically an Arsenal player. Great assist against America. What a game that was, obviously marred by Balogun being, playing. And I feel sorry for Balogun. You're just a relatively young professional footballer playing at a World Cup, and suddenly because of you making us conceding a foul, you've become like this big circus and story and things of that ilk. I don't think it's fair, but enough of the waffle. Just getting the creative juices flowing. Let me share my screen and let's see exactly what's going on now. The first stop is the Athletics deal sheet, people, in which the deal sheet, latest on Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and more. Ben White's been linked with Everton. We'll circle back on that, but I say that to say this. Would you lot take Wan-Bissaka? That's another name that's been linked with us. We're going to try our best to skip through the Tosh people. Oh, this is interesting. What is the latest with Morgan Rogers? Now, again, probably going to regurgitate the same things, folks. Nonetheless, Rogers is part of England's campaign at the World Cup in North America and came on in a dramatic win over Mexico, but his future at club level remains static. In early June, The Athletic reported that Rogers was admired the most by almost every major club in England, including Arsenal, Manchester United, and Manchester City, and by several across Europe, namely PSG and Bayern Munich. Bayern have since completed a deal of Sabari, strengthening their options in Rogers' position. An offer was always unlikely and is not expected now. Similarly, there's no indication yet that PSG will formalize their interest as their focus remains on RB Leipzig's Ivorian winger Yan Diomande. Rogers' priority is to play Champions League football, which he has qualified with Aston Villa. And as James McNicholas reports below, he remains Arsenal's top target, although the club are closely considering PSG's Bradley Bacola as another option to their attack. That's all we seem to be hearing, people. Now, for me, Gomares, Rogers, Bacola, I hear it. They probably want Arsenal, or they'd be interested in Arsenal. We'd definitely be interested in them. Personal terms probably wouldn't be a problem. You can see tactically and technically how they would fit in the short, medium, and long term. But the only thing I'm interested in is all of those names I said there, right? In Bruno's case, Newcastle, PSG where Bacola's concerned, Aston Villa where Rogers is concerned. I just think it comes down to the money, innit? Like, if you want him, pay the money, whatever that is, really and truly. I'm not saying just put down craziness if you don't think he's worth it, but I'm just simply saying, it comes to it. These players are going to be hard to prize out their club. You could say it's a seller's market, because if you have one of these players or a Krupi and things like that, if you were smart enough to to bring these players in before they became household names, it's a seller's market. You've got top items. You could also say it's a buyer's market, because transfers are never easy. But I do think it's clear with Bruno Gomares, you got to come with 70 odd million quid. I don't quite subscribe to Rogers being 130, but I think it's 100 million plus, definitely more than Rice and Elliot Anderson. Krupi, you're looking at 90, 100. Whether these guys are worth it or not, you could argue in terms of it being a buyer's market, that's the asking price. If you've got the money, put the money down. Medicals deals can be, completed, isn't it, sort of thing. So, yeah, we haven't learned anything there. And we know Rogers is greatly admired by Arsenal as many other clubs. Aston Villa in the Champions League. They're doing great things and whatnot. And it's going to take good money. So, yeah. They're yet to make an offer for Rogers. Similarly, while Tottenham have spent heavily this summer and have held interest in Rogers before, they have not made a move either. Aston Villa's position is they do not want to see the player leave, but would want more for Rogers than the British record 116 million fee that City paid for Elliot Anderson. And I think they're well within their rights to do that, if I'm honest with you. Everton apparently are interested in Jed Spence, one of the options they're looking at right back. Ben White is also on that list, as well as Doué. The Ivorian Doué had a good World Cup campaign. Spence would be a good signing for Everton and David Moyes. Ben White, I would love, if I could get a magic brush and say, you know what, you're over your injuries, and I'd put the same thing on Timber, but it's more with Ben White. I don't think we need a right back, but Yeah, and I don't know how much Ben White's injury has affected our ability to move him on. Apparently, West Ham are open to selling Wan-Bissaka and will set an asking price at 25 million. He's been linked with us, not with any credible sources, but yeah, they're yet to receive, for what it's worth, any inquiries for the 28-year-old. His contract expires in 2031. So there's also that. Do Aston Villa need to sell Rodgers? Villa will loathe to lose Rodgers, but his departure could help eradicate their financial worries. Having exceeded their loss limit under UEFA football earnings, in essence, a stricter version of the Premier League soon to be scrapped limit on overall club losses in 23-24, Villa entered into a settlement agreement, and the terms of that agreement are varied and punitive. And if Villa breach it, they'll be banned from European competitions for a year. Avoiding the outcome won't be easy. The agreement limited Villa to a maximum loss of 60 million euros, which is about 51 million pounds, in adjusted losses in 2025-26, and no loss at all in 26-27. So they can't lose in the current season, albeit that amount can be upped by whatever headroom Villa had under last season's 60 odd million quid. Yet that potential increase is rendered mute by the fact that in 27-28, Villa will be assessed on 3 seasons worth of losses from 25 to 27. Their football earnings figure in 24-25, a year when, for UEFA purposes, they made a 97 million euros pre-tax loss, will be included in the assessment. So again, this is just waffle to say that, you know, they're fighting some level of financial securities, really. So I have to see. And it does correlate with what we heard around losses. Their 3-year loss limit is 60 million euros, potentially rising to 90 million euros if they hit a few markers of good financial health, which England clubs really do. It's highly likely Villa will need to turn a profit this season, in which they might have to sell a Konza for X amount. They might have to sell a Morgan Rogers or several other players and make up the difference in that regard. Very testing, people. And, you know, the rules are not fair. Like, they, you know, some rules allow state-backed countries to state-backed clubs, apologies, to do what they want. Some rules for me protect, you know, the traditional big clubs in England, like the ones that you get where I'm going. And then there's also that red tape in which it does stop an Aston Villa, and I'm more saying Newcastle. I get you have to generate revenues, and we'd have to speak to a financial accountant, but the Newcastles, the Aston Villas, especially Newcastle, you're kind of crippled from flexing your muscles, essentially, people. So football's a dirty game, people, if I'm completely honest. Villa will therefore need to sell this season. Naturally, letting go of one of their most valuable players might be the easiest route to compliance. Rodgers arrived from Middlesbrough for just 7 million euros, rising to 15 million. Middlesbrough hold a 20% sell-on clause, which would obviously have a hand. And that selling him might also wipe out compliance worries in one full scoop, and will help Villa on their squad cost ratio, SCR, too. Last week, it was announced they'd been fined an unconditional 7.5 million euros for breaching UEFA CSR for a second year running, with up to 15 million euros more to come if they don't continue to significantly decrease their squad cost ratio in 2026. 1/3 of player profits count to the annual SCR calculations. Rodgers might be Villa's easiest recourse, but they also much prefer to keep him. Doing this would require profitable trading elsewhere and likely in volume. If those sales aren't forthcoming, a tricky game of timing comes into play. Villa have until June the 30th, 2027 to get this season's figure ship shape. So they can, in theory, you know, it's just more confirmation. They could sell Rodgers next season and get away with it. We know where Arsenal's concerned. Leandro Trossard, again, could be heading to Turkey. Besiktas and Arsenal have agreed an 80 million euros fee with a potential 2 million in potential add-ons, people. Personal terms are still being finalized. No move is expected until Belgium's participation at the World Cup is resolved, which is probably over in the next game. Jeremy Mongon's not signing for Arsenal. He's gone to Manchester City, so we're not going to waste time on that. Our top priority remains Rodgers of Villa, although the club are considering Bradley Bacola as another alternative. Arsenal retain their interest in Bruno Gomares, although having already sold Anthony Gordon and Sandro Tonali, Newcastle's position remains that the Brazilian is not for sale. Kepa has attracted the interest of clubs in Italy and Spain. The 31-year-old can leave Arsenal if a club meets his 5 million euros. Reports that Odegaard has reached an agreement to follow Trossard to Turkey are inaccurate. He is fully focused on Norway's World Cup campaign, and he remains very happy at Arsenal. Chelsea are not getting Granit Xhaka for what that means. Is there anything else Arsenal related? Chelsea like Morgan Rogers, as we know. Liverpool, nobody cares from an Arsenal perspective, but they still hold an interest in Bacola like Arsenal do. Curtis Jones and Chiesa could leave. Anyone having Curtis Jones? He used to get linked with Arsenal all the time. Links don't always correlate, but you get the point. City have seen a lot of turnover, if I'm honest with you. I don't think Rodri leaves, but it'd be interested to see what happens there. Spare a thought for Onana as well of Aston Villa, which is irrelevant for Man United's one. Potential ACL injury suffered. apparently United hold an interest in Tchouaméni. I'd love that, and Alex Scott, which would be interesting because he's linked with both of our clubs. People, United are weighing up a move for Scott. They've also been linked with Andre Santos of Chelsea. Now, would you lot have him? I know we shouldn't shop in Chelsea's um, cupboard and things, and I know you can't go. It's difficult to go from linking with Tonali and Bruno Gomares and all of them to Andre Santos. Yarab, a young Ghanaian international, a lot of like emerging talents, with the exception of Bawardi, who is an emerging talent, but is a bit different. Maybe, that's the route for Arsenal to go. And I'm happy I'm not better because you're going to have to figure this out, people. So, yeah, scrolling down. Tonali's obviously gone to Spurs. Nobody cares about that. Anything around Gomares. Newcastle want to get rid of Joe Willock. Again, further strengthening their position and making it harder for us to get Gomares because they're getting money in, people. Nobody cares about Tottenham. I'm sure I saw something in relation to Real Madrid. Here we go. Nico Paz has been linked with a move away from Real Madrid, people. Senior club sources see the recent deal with Como over Paz as an ideal solution, one that allows the 21-year-old to continue his development while ensuring Real Madrid retain control over his future. Sources said Como will pay Real Madrid 60 million euros to remove previous buyback options and sell-on fees, although a renegotiation of their 2024 agreement when Madrid Academy grad Paz joined the Italian club, it gives Madrid a new buyback clause of 80 million euros, valid in the summer of 2027. The same sources also believe the structure makes sense from an accounting perspective, and Paz's deal isn't Madrid's only one involving an academy grad. Obviously, they've got money from Liverpool signing Manus from Osasuna. Jimenez has joined Bournemouth on a permanent, and Marino Martin has also departed. And Bournemouth have also signed the striker Alvaro Rodriguez. Is that in relation to Krupi? Apologies, people. I only mentioned Nico Paz purely because he's a player linked with Arsenal, but it seems like there's complications. Arsenal have also been linked with Raul Sensio. I'm not convinced on him, and especially off the field, forget all of that. Camavinga still linked with a move away. He's a player that a lot of us Arsenal players with fans, apologies, take a punt on. What is this? It's probably going to say the same things. Although Arsenal have been left behind by their neighbours Tottenham in terms of transfer spending this summer, nobody cares about that. Trossard's departing. Bradley Bacola and Morgan Rogers, again, are the links, people. Trossard is moving ever closer to an exit. I just don't want to repeat the same things. We've had 15 players at the World Cup. So, the overall condition come the start of the 2026-27 season, it makes you think what's going to go on there, people. Apparently, Villa have been telling all who will listen that Rodgers is not for sale despite their need to generate player revenue too, meeting financial guidelines. But there is a belief a British record 130 million would open the door to Arsenal's negotiations. There have been rumblings that Bacola is not available, but the France international has been reluctant to agree terms on a new contract. Yan Diomande and Magnès Alouche from Monaco could further see him not play football at PSG because they're bringing in more attackers. Bacola is understood to be open to listening to what suitors such as Arsenal and Liverpool say. An Arsenal delegation travelled to watch him against Sweden. Apparently, where Rodgers is concerned, the Englishman is said to be keen to speak to the Gunners, and unlike Bacola, has Premier League experience. Rodgers is less of a winger, more of an attacking midfielder, but that versatility appeals to Mikel Arteta. Gabriel Martinelli has interest from Saudi Arabia. Jesus is available for 18 to 20 million. Premier League clubs are circling people for Gabriel Jesus. Keen to see what happens there. Apparently, Ellie Junior Krupi is another Arsenal admirer, as do neighbours Spurs, City, Liverpool, and Barca. Yet Bournemouth are desperate to keep their squad together. For a season in Europe under Michael Rose, and that will be reflected in the asking price of 90 million. Julian Alvarez, as you know, has been on Arteta's wish list for some time. The guy wants to join Barcelona. Atletico would prefer to sell him abroad, and he carries an asking price of over 100 million. Arsenal have considered Chelsea and Man United's 50 million target. Somerville at West Ham. They've been offered Zolis from Club Brugge, and 18-year-old Leipzig winger Bosnia as well, Karim Ajlabegovic, people. Oh, what's going on there? Have also been offered. Again, where Kareem's in concern, I've actually done a scouting video, so go and check that out. We know we didn't get Monga. Their interest in Sandro Tonali was different. Newcastle sources maintained Arsenal were the Italians' preferred choice, yet the figures weren't stacking up for the Gunners, as they didn't for Man United. And in the end, Roberto De Zerbi's persistence convinced Tonali the other side of North London was worth listening to. 100 million transfer fee and a 6-year contract on wages of 180k per week were considered by Arsenal to be sums better utilised elsewhere. Apparently, we've been rebuffed in an initial inquiry for Bruno Gomares. A first offer around 55 million was to test the waters, but we haven't bid it officially. It's an offer. I mean, a verbal offer. The Brazilian wants to move, as do his reps, but Newcastle can ill afford another high-profile departure. Club accountants, though, may argue Gomares is 28. Accepting anything above 65 million would represent financial sense. Regardless, Berta has deviated to long-term target and inquired about Alex Scott. As with Man United, the message is he's not for sale. But the 22-year-old is open to opportunities this window. However, there's belief it would take 80 million all in to make it happen. Scott or Gomares are considered more viable than Enzo Fernandez, for example, with Chelsea still chasing 120 million for the one-to-way Argentine who has some admirers at Arsenal. As with City, United, and Chelsea, Arsenal also maintain an interest in Lille's prodigy Ayo Bawadi, 20-year-old Caleb Yereminki of Ghana and Neusland, and Boca Juniors' Thomas Aranda. And again, rumours of Martin Odegaard going to Turkey are wide of the mark. Konza has been linked with us. Apparently, we've shown tentative interest. Lecole is another name of Crystal Palace that's been linked with Arsenal, as has Wan-Bissaka, but that has been horrible. Horrible link. West Ham's Wan-Bissaka has been offered and not been totally dismissed, but he has a number of options pushed to them. So that's more agent-led. As we said, Kepa could be going. Tommy Setford, if you stay and be third choice keeper, great, but I think you need to go and play first-team football, so go on loan. Millier's been linked with us on the free. Hincapie's on Barcelona's list, but we've just signed him actually officially permanently. Calafiori was discussed by Real Madrid, but they've got Cucurella, so let's put that to bed. Ben White still has suitors keen to see if Arsenal will sell, but his medial ligament injury is a concern for some, while he wants to continue playing Champions League football. Likewise, Ethan Wanyeri following I can't say that, but let's just say I cannot say that word. Inauspicious. Listen, an underwhelming loan spell at Marseille. Hamburg are also waiting to see if Arsenal will drop their asking price for Fabio Vieira as they try to recoup 17 million. So imagine you got 15, 17 million for Fabio Vieira. You got 18 to 20 for Gabriel Jesus and a couple of others departures. Our spending could be offset if you do want to overpay for Gomares, for Rodgers, for Bacola, etc., 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 people. Big up all the Arsenal players who are remaining at the World Cup. Naturally, people, Saliba, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Madueke, Eze, Raya, Marino, and Zubimendi, as is Trossard with Belgium. Kai, Gyökeres, Hincapie, Gabriel Magalhaes, and Gabriel Martinelli. The journey is over, man. Hopefully an Arsenal man can bring it home. How clutch is Mikel Merino? And big up Trossard, because that assist was great, man. And you know what? He's making that left wing his own. Are we being linked with the Mexican Pedri? Tijuana have accepted it's only a matter of time before Gilberto Mora, 17, moves to Europe and have put an 18.4 million price on the player. Arsenal and Liverpool are already planning to pay that amount, with both clubs the most prepared to meet their demands. For me, do it. I don't quite think he's the Mexican Pedri, but go get the stars for tomorrow, especially when he's at a premium. You know, if I think his agent's same as Haaland, they probably get him to sign a new deal and make a lot more in it for a Mexican club, respectfully. 18.4 million when Europe's interested in you. You could get a lot more money. So my guess is he signs a new deal with an even bigger release clause. But if I accept this at face value, you can't go wrong. If he develops into the player he's showing and better, great. If not, you must be able to double that in it, people. So I would have him, but I'd love to know your thoughts. This is just regurgitating the same things, people. Tonali, have the best of luck. Bite Yanda for Ellie Krupi Jr. I'm kind of tired of hearing we're carrying out work in tandem for Bradley Bacola and Rodgers. Not to say I'm tired, but it comes down to finances, innit? You put the money down, you get the player. The Daily Mail said Arsenal want to bring in 4 or 5 top quality signings this summer. Another striker, a left-sided forward, a midfielder, a centre-back or fullback, and a goalkeeper are all deemed necessary to supplement the squad. I'm for that. I believe that, and that would make me very happy in our pursuit of trophies and silverware next season, people. The Belgian media apparently encouraging Trossard to go to Aston Villa versus Turkey. I mean, if he can knock a 20 million off the price tag of Rodgers and we can put 100 million up, I'm all for that. Again, we're still being linked with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I'd love to know you guys' thoughts specifically on that.